Our neighbours were very good in the area, and our nearest neighbour on the north side was Alec Morgan. He was a man with very long feet, and the joke in the district was that whenever they wanted to break a riding horse into harness and shafts, they would give it to him to ride, because they reckoned the toes of his boots stuck out far enough that the horse would think they were shafts and wouldn't play up when put in the shaft. Another neighbour were the Fankhouses, which lived just across the road from the Morgans. Further south were the McKinnon family, and then down to the Sowell family, and Fred Sowell was the blacksmith there for many years, and a very good blacksmith and wheelwright he was. There was the hotel next, but I can't think, but I can only remember the Deal family being in there. Next to them were the Hancock's family, and he was Bricky Hancock because he made bricks, and on the farm at home there was a bank which was suitable for bricks, and he had a kiln there and made bricks for many years, and there are still pieces of broken brick in the paddock. The Careys were next, and they were possibly our closest neighbours, and we were very friendly, and Mr. Carey worked for my father and the family for a number of years and was a very good worker. Mr. Clifton lived in the house on the corner of the Cemetery Road, where my brother John lived for a number of years. Next down the road was Lit Harris, and he was a triplet, and because he was the smallest triplet, that's how he was called Lit. Down, I remember Mrs. Prowse lived on the top of the hill there, and later sold to Gibbonses, and he sold to my brothers John and Len. That's how we came to own that property. Next was Charlie Moss, and over the road from him was the Gilbert Roses, and the Rose family were three brothers next door to one another on that side of the road. On the other side of the road was the Sid Mead's house, and further down, or opposite them, was T.D. Wood, and further down Ernest Pemberton. I believe Mr. Pemberton wanted a school permanently situated at the Pemberton corner, but my grandfather, Tom Moffat, who had the store and had 13 children, quite a few of them of school age, refused to send his children 2 miles to school. They had a meeting with the education department, and it was finally decided that the school would be established in Rangiwahia, and I always feel that my grandfather carried the day by sheer weight of numbers. When the school was established, the majority of the children rode on horseback, and some of the horses would be seen coming to school with 3 children, one behind the other, mounted. I always felt frustrated because all the children had their lunches and would stay at school, but living so close to the back of the school, I always had to go home for lunch every day, and it was a red letter day for me if my mother and father were away and I was able to take my lunch to school. But when Miss Field was teaching there, she used to come over and have a hot dinner with the family every day, and across the Curtis Street, my father had a log set in the bank with the top levelled off, which was the bridge. And this, I can recall very vividly this day, the creek was in high flood, and the water was nearly going over the top of the log. And Miss Field didn't want to cross it, but to get around home, she would have had to go all the way back around the recreation ground. So here was me, a small boy, holding Miss Field, who was about 6 feet tall, and leading her across this log, and she was stepping sideways, and it's a wonder we both didn't land up in the drink. The one well-known character in the district was Alex Sharman. He came into the area and used to do casual work around the place, but he had an academic training and took on the secretary of the factory, which he held for many years, and served very well in that capacity. He used to live in the house at the back of our place on the hill, which we always called Sharman's house. He didn't drink very much usually, and we very seldom saw him the worse for wear. But on sale day he would meet some of his friends in the hotel and let his hair down a little. After the sale one day, there'd been some wild cattle in the sale and had jumped the front gate of our property, which was adjacent to the sale yard. They didn't break the gate, but they broke the top hinge out of the post. They lifted the gate back up and put the slot back in, which meant the gate stood up. John, Len and myself were working in the sheep yards next door when we saw Alex Sharman coming over. We'd forgotten about the gate being broken, and he came up, pulled the slot back and went to open the gate. It fell flat in front of him and he fell flat on his face on top of it. We laughed so much and were slow getting over to help him up, and the language we heard was really out of this world. And when we got there to help him up and get him on his feet again, he gave us very much the same treatment.
Going to wait for us,
Another elderly man in the area who was virtually an alcoholic lived in what was a store across the road from the hotel, and he batched there. And one New Year's Eve, after he and his friends had a session in the hotel, the friends went round, and the toilet in those days was a 6-foot hole in the ground and 6 foot deep with the privy on the top. The wags went over and shifted the privy back behind the hole, and he, going to the toilet before he went to bed, landed up in the hole.